Let's go over the top 10 centers to target in your Yahoo head-to-head points drafts coming up next on Beat the Odds. Don't go anywhere. Hello sports fans and welcome back to another episode of Beat the Odds. I've got my top 10 centers to draft in head-to-head points leagues. If you like the sound of that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that way you don't miss an episode. I will be posting valuable fantasy basketball content all season long. Do you have a burning fantasy basketball question that you want an expert to answer? Ask me on Q. Go to askmeonq.com/beattheodds-NBA, submit your question, and I will give you a personal audio response right to your email. You can even send me screenshots of your team so that way I can use that in my review. It's super easy to do and it's a great way to get fantasy basketball advice while also supporting this channel. Now let's dive right into this list here. At number 10 we have Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis is only valuable in points leagues if he can keep up his points pace. He hasn't been an effective rebounder, and with his recovery from ankle surgery likely stretching into 2025, I think he may have a hard time collecting 2 blocks a game as well. Porzingis is going to drop in drafts, so if he goes deep into the middle rounds, I would be tempted to pick him up and hope for a solid run in the fantasy playoffs. To number 9 we go. We have Rudy Gobert. Gobert makes this list because he can bring elite rebounding and shot blocking to the table. That should create a nice floor for him. That being said, I fear that the Wolves might decrease his playing time in favor of keeping Cat at the 5, and that might mean that we get less counting stats for Gobert. Keep an eye on his minutes this season. If it drops below 30 minutes per game, then I'd start to worry. Let's move on to number 8. We have Nikola Vucevic. Vucevic isn't particularly great at anything, but he does just enough to warrant a spot on this list. He should be involved in some more offense with DeRozan in Sacramento, which will bode well for any manager who enlists his services. I think that you can expect a 2010 season from the Bulls center as they struggle to win games this season. Moving on to number 7, we have Bam Adebayo. Adebayo is one of the league's premier defenders, and defense is usually rewarded in points leagues. Bam bucks that trend a little bit as he's more of a smart defender than he is a pure shot blocker. But it is nice to know that you can count on a sizable floor with Bam. If his 3-point shot starts to drop, maybe he will add a couple more points per game to the delight of the Heat and fantasy managers alike. Moving on to number 6, we have Alperen Sengun. There is no worries when it comes to Sengun's less than impressive free throw shooting. We are only concerned with his role in this offense, and he'll likely have the benefit of a lot of touches. Sengun should be primed to make another leap this season and has the potential to be considered as an elite playmaking center like Sabonis and Jokic. Sengun's floor isn't nearly as secure as those two, but I'd be happy to pick him up in the 3rd round. On to number 5 we go. We have Joel Embiid. As you can guess, I won't be picking up Embiid in many of the H2H formats, as I don't want to take the risk on a first round selection not contributing when I need him the most in fantasy playoffs. If he's still available in round 2, then perhaps I'll take a look. Embiid's elite free throw percentages is unfortunately not considered in this format, where his high turnover rate certainly is. When Embiid is on the court, he is a top 3 center though in this league. Let's go to number 4. We have Domantas Sabonis. The floor is likely going to drop a bit for Sabonis, considering that he's likely the 3rd option on offense in Sacramento, and potentially the 4th if he, Fox, DeRozan, and Malik Monk are on the court at the same time. He will still feast as an elite rebounder at both ends, and should be amongst the top 10 in assists for any player this season. Sabonis is still a solid player to target later in round 2. Moving on to number 3, we have Victor Wembanyama. Now this is an interesting format for Wemby, one where he won't be penalized for taking ill-advised shots, and one that will accentuate his defensive stat-stuffing ways. His turnovers are a drain and will still anchor his performances, but he certainly does enough to be considered amongst the top 3 centers in this format. And with Chris Paul in the fold, we might see him push for that number 1 spot this season. Let's go to number 2. We have Anthony Davis. Going back to the reasons why I like AD in every format is that there's very few holes in his game, if any. The offense is still run through LeBron, so Davis will only collect secondary assists, but that is offset somewhat by his lower turnover numbers. Factor in how good of a defensive player, scorer, and rebounder, and you can see why Davis will be gone before the end of the first round. And finally, at number 1, we have Nikola Jokic. Jokic is going to fare well in this format, about as well as he would fare in any other format. In fact, there isn't really a format that Jokic couldn't dominate. He's going to challenge Doncic and Sabonis for triple-doubles this season, and he's going to be amongst the best centers in steals. His floor is certainly the highest on this list, and it may get a bit higher as he will have to shoulder some more of the scoring load with KCP out of town. And that's going to do it here for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video and of course subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'm going to sign off for now, but I will catch you guys on the next episode.